What's the worst thing someone tried to correct you about something you're specialized at? How to spell my own name, which I'm sure I know how to spell after all these years. I have a friend who likes to tell people my middle name is Nebraska. It's not. My middle name is Braska. But I've had to argue with several people that yes, I know what Mark told you. And yes, I know that you've never heard that name before, but it's my goddamn name and I know what it is. I'm not really specialized, but a redditor tried correcting me about the geography of my country, Norway, claiming that it was very much flat like all the other Nordic countries, and he refused to believe me when I told him that it's the opposite and it's filled with mountains. I'm majoring in archaeology. I had a guy start talking to me about dinosaurs. I correct him and say it's a fairly common misconception, but paleontology and archaeology are two different fields, and I'm studying humans, not dinosaurs. He doubles down and insists I need to know about dinosaurs, because what do you do if you're digging up ruins and find a dinosaur fossil? Call a paleontologist. He smugly tells me I'll be useless in the field if I don't know about dinosaurs, and I better start registering for paleontology courses and leaves. I still don't know about dinosaurs. I had to leave welding subreddit for this reason. I'm a welder on nuclear submarines with over 14 different X-ray welding qualifications at this company alone. I would constantly get into arguments with people who are new and have no real world experience with welding. The amount of wrong information being thrown out left and right over there is insane. There are plenty of very knowledgeable folks there, but they are overshadowed by the ignorant. There are plenty of very knowledgeable folks there, but they are overshadowed by the ignorant aliens describing Earth to other aliens. My art teacher in school took the yellow paint from me and drew a massive sun in the corner of my picture. I was 5, and I was already brilliant at drawing suns. The cow. So, Canadian lawyer here. I used to do primarily firearms law. I taught a course in firearms law at university. I've been consulted on it by lawyers. I've had judges tell other lawyers to phone me with firearms law questions. I had a law student telling me that I was oh so wrong about firearms law on a particular topic. Eventually they went and cited a particular case, which I politely advised them they were wrong about. They keep going on, talking about how just because I'm a lawyer and they're a student doesn't mean they're wrong. Meanwhile I'm just holding my tongue. Eventually someone else chimed in to be like, UHH, don't you know who that is? And the case you cited was a case he personally argued and won on. Satisfying AF. If a heaven exists, I think I'd just want to have it be a never-ending series of these moments where I'm the expert. I'm a professional pastry cook. The GM at my new job tried to reteach me how to crack eggs. I'm a climber. People tell me to wear gloves all of the time. There is a form of climbing where gloves would be somewhat acceptable, although even then a bit questionable, but in free climbing / bouldering you cannot wear gloves, because your fingers actually allow you to grip onto smaller pieces of rock. I totally get you. Got asked that question to a few times, and then offered the people to join me and wear gloves. One person joined me once, and tried it seriously with those thin woolen gloves, and she realized she had been wrong. She is now my reference person if someone asks the question again. I'm a food scientist, so this happens basically all the goddamn time. One person insisting that MSG gives her terrible migraines. She was eating pizza at that exact time. Someone insisting that you should drink apple cider vinegar to alkalize your body to prevent diseases. I point out that's an acid. He insists it's not. Apple cider vinegar. Another person telling me how agave nectar is so much healthier and how I should replace all the sugar I eat with it. I tell her it's just a fructose / glucose mix and you might as well use corn syrup. She got really mad. Like irrationally mad. There is so much misinformation about food that this is basically constant for me. That flying is a dangerous mode of travel. IAmA. A plane crash is news. A car crash is business as usual. A guy that considered himself to be a music maven tried to correct me when I mentioned Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy. He insisted that J.S. Bach composed it when, in fact, Bach never composed any symphonies, not to mention that Ode to Joy is one of Beethoven's most famous pieces. I'm a Harley mechanic, and I swear most Harley riders have to pretend they know everything about their bike. I don't even argue with them anymore. I just tell them what's up, and if they want to debate about it, I say okay and walk away. Lol, I know a guy who built his Harley entirely or almost entirely from spare parts. His party trick is to ask other enthusiasts what year model it is. The correct answer is all of them. I'm a nurse and I particularly like it when people try to inform me about medications, but I usually take paracetamol every hour and that's why you're here with liver problems, Karen. I had a woman once tell me that I didn't know anything about cancer or cancer treatment and that she only needed essential oils and greens to cure her colorectal cancer. I literally am a cancer pharmacist and she came to us for treatment. I didn't specialize on it, but when I worked at the deli in my local grocery store I had a guy come in asking for some sliced ham. I asked him if he wanted black forest ham, honey baked or mesquite ham. He looked at me and said it's not mesquite, it's mesquite. I pointed at the sign and label on the actual effing ham that said mesquite ham, but he still corrected me. I gave up and gave him his damn mesquite ham. This was a good 15 years ago, and I'm still mad about it. My hometown is mesquite. That cracks me up. I'm gonna start calling it mystique. My wife has a friend who studied zoology who once told me that cows can't run or jump. I grew up with them. I, more than once, had to run after or away from them after they had jumped a fence. Cows are f***ing fast when they want to be. Our neighbors had a cow who learned how to kneel down and crawl across cattle guards. She roamed the area for years, couldn't be contained. I'm an identical twin and a big biology nerd. I had someone insist that fraternal twins are paternal twins and explain why she'll have some BC they've leapfrogged through her husband's family. AWW, that's rough. Don't know how her husband's genes will get her to produce 2 eggs though. I was reading a fertility book the other day and I never realized but identical twins isn't associated with family history/genetics. Someone in my school, USA, tried to correct my Spanish. I'm Puerto Rican, a Spanish speaking colony of the US, and then I started talking full Spanish and he walked away. I remember a Spanish teacher from Colombia trying to correct my Spanish, and when I insisted that this is how we speak in Puerto Rico, she countered that she's got a Puerto Rican friend who doesn't speak like I do at all. Wasn't until she met my mother that she finally shut the f up. Bitch never heard of dialects before, I guess. I got shut down by this actually. I was arguing with my cousin while we were in an old hydraulic elevator. I said the hydraulic elevators are slow, crap and have far more failures than cable elevators. The guy standing across from us laughs, shakes his head, and says he's an elevator repairman, and that's not true at all. Shamed. Elevator knowledge, very up and down. I'm a knife maker. A friend tried to tell me that the curve on the katana was forged in. No, it's make by differential hardness in the quench, and then tried to tell me that tempering a knife meant hardening it. I see that you actually studied the blade. People without their ID constantly try and quote various laws about being able to order alcohol when out with parents. I work in a pub which is part of a chain. We are regularly tested for challenge 21. No, I'm not handing you a pint when you can't prove you're old enough and wouldn't be willing to pay the £1,000 fine I'd receive. My height, I'm 6 feet 10. Guy comes up and says he's 6 feet 10. So I must be like 7 now. Man, you're 6 feet 6 maximum. And then we went back and forth about that for a bit. Also had the other side of that coin, where someone will ask how tall I am, and I'll reply 6 minutes and 10 seconds and they just straight up won't believe me, and will tell me I'm lying like, what? Why? What would I possibly stand to benefit? I work in lightning protection here in the States. I do the estimating and the designs for the largest company in the Southeast. Have 4 going on 7 years. Certified through our industry certification company. The amount of engineers and architects that love to argue with me about the code is astounding. I live that code. Being I estimate and design systems, my main job is to know that code. The worst was the Army Corps of Engineers. We had a project that their designer designed that was in the bid package drawings. Pretty standard. Pick out the materials requested and ignore the incorrect design. That is how we bid it, won it, and designed it. This would have provided them with a fully certified system. In our business, a UL master label certification is as close to a requirement for every job as anything can be. 2 weeks after we submit our design, it comes back with a revise/resubmit stamp and a very snarky demand from the core that we change our design to the one provided in the bid package. I went back and forth on email and calls with the engineers trying to explain to them that their system would not work, was potentially a dangerous hazard, and ultimately could not be certified or warranted. They came back basically with, "We don't care what you say, we know better, do it." So I did. Designed exactly like they had, and put a disclaimer on the drawing saying there would be issues and we were not responsible. A few months go by, it's installed and ready for certification. They call the inspector out, and he fails it without even getting on the roof. The army is pissed and tried to come back at us. I politely forward the countless email chains to the officer in charge. Now they scramble to get it up to code. As a consequence, it resulted in us issuing a change order to bring it up to code that was around 75% of the original cost of the project. God damn it. Wasted tax dollars via stupidity. I see it so much as a government contractor. I studied history at uni and worked for a while as a tour guide in Prague, Czech Republic. I had a customer once on a walking tour of the city go really snarky with me because I called the river running through the city the Vltava. He declared to the whole tour that that wasn't its name. I asked him if he'd heard it referred to as the Moldor, as that was the German name for the river during the Habsburg era when German was the official language, but he said no. And was I stupid? The river was called the Danube. I pointed out to him that the Danube doesn't run through Prague, and asked if maybe he was thinking of Brno. No, he had definitely read in a guidebook that it was the Danube, and why the hell was he paying money for this tour if the guide didn't even know what the river was called? At which point another tourist in the group showed him her guidebook where it clearly said Vltava. Then another showed him a map, and another showed him another guidebook, and so on, until the whole group had basically showed him what a twaza he was being. He didn't apologize, of course, but at least he shut up for the rest of the tour. You wouldn't believe the number of times people tried to tell me that people only become diabetic if they eat too much sugar, and insist they are right. I'm a type 1 diabetic, diagnosed at 14 months. Was I drinking soda from my bottles and using ring pops as pacifiers then? A new house gets built next door to mine, and shortly after the owners move in, they knock on my door to complain that my house is built too high. I explain that my house was/is built on flat ground and their builder has built their house lower and undercut my fence. The guy proceeds to give long-winded spiel about how earthworks are done and my house is too high and I have to fix it. I then explain that I do earthworks for a living, have done the earthworks for 300 plus houses in my suburb alone and around 1200 in the local area. I name his builder, site supervisor, engineer, the exact floor levels in the street, and the law that says that he has to pay to fix my fence. He still hasn't paid, and legal procedures are beginning soon. Not me, but yesterday I was at a physics lecture given by Donna Strickland, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics last year for her work in lasers. During the questions afterwards, some kid, either undergrad or young grad, I didn't know him, was all I have a comment more than a question, and proceeded to explain some laser technique to her, and that she should use it. Her response was a yes, we are well familiar with X in MATLAB and use it. I was just kind of amazed at the marksy of a kid who tried to tell a Nobel laureate how to do her research in a room packed with hundreds of people. There's one in every field. I've know a few ancillary candidates in my field just starting out, working with kids with autism who think they have it all figured out because they're a psych major and took child development classes. That moment when after 20 minutes of arguing about something, the person Googles it to prove you're wrong. That look on their face, the shame when they see you were right all along. Priceless. I'm guilty of this last year. But the guy said Earth has different gravity in some parts. It was so absurd that I argued. I was wrong. He is a pastry chef, and not a physicist, but still. Asked to do the rear brakes on a classic Vespa. I think it may have been a 200 rally. Not sure. It was decades ago. So the owner and his pal turn up with the scooter. I loosen off and remove the rear rim and tire, loosen the hub nut, and go to put the rear rim and tire back on. Oh hey, wait a minute mate, what the fuck you doing? I'm getting the hub off. Not like that you're not. So I tell them I'm going for a cuppa and a smoke and I'll be back when they've removed the hub. 4 hours. 0.4 bloody hours they were at it. Hub wouldn't budge, not 1mm. Getting bored I go back to them, put the rim and tire on, screw in and tighten 2 wheel bolts, and using a mallet hit 3 times in 1 point, then 3 times 180 degrees opposite, rinse and repeat 3 or 4 times. Whole rim slash tire slash hub assembly lifts off. I charge them 1/2 a day labor for a 30-minute job. Oh boy, where do I begin? I'm a professional music producer. I've been for years. My productions get great reviews from people and are often singled out by music magazines and other industry professionals. People who know what they're doing are nothing but nice and supportive. But I get shit from salty bedroom guitarists all the time. Seems like every time I produce a young band, there's this one guy there who thinks he knows it all because he watched a YouTube video. The bass knob on the amp should be set at 10 because 5 years ago I heard that Tremonti sets his bass knob at 10. There should be no effects or editing on the vocals because Black Sabbath in the 70s didn't have vocal effects double tracking guitars. What the f***? Nirvana had one guitar player and they were the biggest band on the planet. We are recording only one take. Black Sabbath in the 70s didn't have vocal effects, yeah, but they did have Ozzy frickin' Osbourne, and you ain't him.